Southern African countries have deployed envoys to Eswatini to try and stem the unrest that saw one person killed and dozens wounded by security forces in the latest wave of pro-democracy protests. We get you more on the situation in that country. We're joined by Thokozani Kunene, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Eswatini. Ngwane Siyakwamkela, if you could please just maybe give us a sense of what is happening at this hour in Eswatini. We understand that the blood bank in that country is running low. Do you have any idea of that?
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to your listeners. I think the situation in the country is so running in a horrible situation, because I think what defines much of the problem is the nature at which the regime is now operating. Not like any formal government. I think it's possible that almost everything operational in the country could be at a zero now, or anything that probably comes from the regime sides is only about defending itself. But otherwise, things in the country are completely almost shut down. The economy is almost struggling to function. Trucks putting crews in the country can't move, and then everything is appearing to be standstill. Some factories are not operational up to now. Sometimes the regime uses communication and internet to put everything down. So the operational system or situation in the country is quite very unworkable as we speak. But apart from that is the horrible reaction of the police and the army to kill our people and wound them in such a manner that cannot necessarily be thought of or is unprecedented in the midst of the world.
I would like to get this from you as an everyday Swati on the ground. Amaswati are usually seen as people who are very docile. Violence is the absolute last resort for them. That this has been happening for quite some time now tells us what about the situation in that country?
A society in any cause can survive at some particular point any kind of oppression. It was not easier to accept that Swazis were docile, but it was under the circumstances at which they were living in that made them not to realize what are the important practical channels for them to free themselves against the monarchy, against the dictatorship. We recall that that situation has always been known, that in the struggle towards freedom against colonial or British colonial rule, immediately our country was subjected into another form of oppression, where a decree was passed that banned political parties and made it very impossible for the people of the country to have free interactions among themselves. So that could not necessarily be docile. It was the magnitude of the oppression. But we can recall that what has changed now is their consciousness. They have seen, they have understood who are they, what are they capable of doing. So I think that's why now systematically they have risen to this degree, to this magnitude, where they are demanding their freedom, and as such, their action from an armed position, they are able to turn things around. And now the regime that has not so long enjoyed the advantage of suppression of our people, now it is forced now to either submit power or risk a life of permanent liquidation from the people and elimination if they will still resist this privilege and offer of an opportunity to give power to the people, or to surrender the throne of the dictatorship to the people who are now ready and determined to govern themselves and improve their lives and organize themselves better than what they were paid. In the underlying pattern of the situation of their so-called to be docile situation was the grinding poverty and the loss of lives that our people have been suffered. A country with a population that for the past 3 decades have struggled to move from 1 million people as a population statistics, but it's always been fluctuation, because not only that people are migrating out, the de facto statistics explain that our population has been struggling to reach up to one point of to grow in spite of life births. So I think this reaction means a lot of sense to us. It says our country is now in the epoch where things should turn around. We need to gain our freedom, and in whatever it costs, we have to. But we must say that it is at a price, and the price also means the loss of lives, which are taking place and happening day in and day out blood is split on the floors in hospitals and elsewhere in our communities, in the protest lines. But that doesn't deter us that we are now determined. It is time we wage a struggle successfully and overthrow the dictatorship and bring a proper democracy in our country.
On that point of democracy, you rightfully mentioned Eswatini is a very intimate country with what? A population of some 2 million people. Is it ready for democracy?
For the basis that we are rejecting the repressive system, to us it qualifies a high level and high degree of readiness to govern themselves. Actually, what our people have been living under was suppression, the potential and capacity of our people. Because in a nutshell, democracy or a rule by the people will mean how the people will take charge of the state instrument to deal with their basic issues and solve their problems which today are created by the old system. So in this sense, we are to organize a system that will make you to do what you want to do is what our people have been doing. The livelihood and survival of our population has been subjected into a condition where those rights, those capabilities and potentials were undermined by the system that has been ruling them. So we do not doubt that our people are ready to govern themselves, and there is no way that they can fail to organize to govern themselves, even when they've been able to live and survive under this element of suppression, where it was illegal for our people to earn a livelihood under the dictatorship. So many people
Mr. Kunene, unfortunately, we're so desperate for time, but I would like to get some confirmation of sorts on this. Reports doing the rounds suggest that the king has sought the intervention of foreign security forces, namely from Equatorial Guinea. Are you aware of this?
The regime has been survived with Equatorial Guinea. I think it's misunderstood in that matter, because I think Equatorial Guinea has been involved in the country for some time now, and they've been operating this way in this model operandi. But moreover, it's not like that. It was not only Equatorial Guinea, but also the island of Taiwan has been always involved, and directly now they are involved. There are a lot of auxiliary forces from sub-imperialist countries and other individual institutions that are involved in working up the system. That's where the confidence is. Our worry is that when SADC turns a blind eye on the situation, I think that is also an accomplice just to observe and see that. We've heard that there's an envoy by the president to Swaziland, but I think our issue is to try and see exactly what to find out, because I think SADC already had a case about what are the situation in Swaziland, and we think the most important thing and priority thing to do now is to disarm the regime that is putting a massive excessive force into our people, using arms that I think the international community has allowed such a dictator to hold on, and claiming that they are running a country. But it is known that Swaziland has been run in this way, in this fashion, by a system that has got no authority or no legitimacy to hold into this kind of power, but because of the external support, which I think that is what is emphasized, not only just to look at the elements that of force that is used by Equatorial Guinea and Israel and Taiwan, but also how this regime has been survived by big imperialist countries, the USA, Britain, and some other sub-imperialist countries. Japan is also involved. The survival, the nature of the survival of the dictatorship has been supported from external forces, suppressing our people who are today now are rejecting that phenomenon, and they are calling for democracy. Yes, this kind of magnitude also brings a challenge. When will this stop? It will mean when will our country be free? So that support that the regime gets need to be ended, because it will mean an end of the dictatorship. That is the only condition to usher our democracy. Otherwise, the people of our country are ready and they are prepared and determined to fight to the last.
Coincidentally, today is Africa Human Rights Day, which is celebrated annually on the 21st of October. This is what the African Union has tweeted. I beg to be corrected, or stand to be corrected. They haven't weighed in on these latest developments. When they do, we'll bring you what it is that they have to say. Thank you very much, Mr. Thokozani Kunene, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Eswatini.